shoot it. Good. Get off. Let's go, offense. Let's go.
After 2 days of sunshine, Mother Nature letting us know she's still around. Light rain on the field here in Owings Mills as the players make their way out for day 3 of a padded practice, phase 3 of training camp. This is Training Camp Live presented by Xfinity. LJ Fort getting his early stretches in. The players making their way out on the field a few minutes ago. This is the last practice before an off day, scheduled off day on Thursday. Lamar Jackson has been on point early in his 2020 campaign. Orlando Brown Jr. getting some work in as well. Evan Washburn, again, alongside Ryan Mink, will be with you for the next 30 minutes, maybe even trickling towards 40 minutes. And again, the plan here is to show you as much of that live practice, the individual drills. When it comes to us on camera, that means they've gone to some sort of team period. So, Ryan Mink, we've been out here for 2 days, watched a lot of practice. What's on your mind as we embark on day 3 here?
Well, I think the weather, that's the big thing. Now we're going to see whether that execution level can take another, can rise even more. The weather's going to challenge that because, unfortunately, it's not sunny and 70 every single time you take the field every Sunday. So, that's something to watch. Can those receivers hold on to that ball? Are the handoffs clean, the snaps, all those different little things? This is a good little test of that.
And obviously, this show, as we've let you know over the last couple days, is very interactive, and that's how we'd like it to be. So make sure to comment on the Facebook page in the comment section some of your questions and thoughts about training camp, and we'll do our best to address those over the course of the show. But, Ryan, I mentioned it. We've got 2 days of evidence of what this team at least looks like in the initial part of phase 3 here of training camp. And as we bounce around the roster and look at some of these guys getting loosened up, some of your standouts from the last couple days as we look at Miles Boykin, he's been a guy that everyone's been talking about, especially after yesterday's workout.
Yeah, for sure. Miles Boykin's had 2 strong days, and that's really good to see because he's a wide receiver the Ravens really need to step up this year. So I think he's shown a lot in terms of just very smooth. I mean, making all the catches, making catches in contact. Here's a big-bodied guy who can go down the field, made a leaping catch over Marlon Humphrey yesterday. So Miles Boykin has shown a lot of potential, and I think that's what we all expected last year after he caught balls for about 198 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, here's a player that we knew had a high ceiling, and it was just a matter of time. So it's good to see him kind of grow into that in these first 2 practices. And
I think, Ryan, too, we've seen, and you've mentioned it, that you can have an impact as a rookie, but it's a challenging position, especially to make that transition. So now as we look at Devin Duvernay, who has looked good early in camp, he's trying to maybe buck that trend in a lot of ways by being able to come here in year 1 and make an impact with this offense. And at least in the first 2 padded practices, when, as we know, things start to get real and you get answers about what guys are and are not, he at least has been able to answer those through some of the 7-on-7 and individual drills.
Well, you definitely see how fast he is. I mean, that's been pretty clear. We heard about that all throughout the draft process and immediately after. This is a track guy, got some major speed. Then yesterday when he's going up against Marcus Peters, who is pretty darn fast himself, you see Duvernay just get outside near the sideline and hit the jets, and he's gone. So, I mean, some really impressive speed on Devin Duvernay, and I think that really adds another dimension to the Ravens' passing attack, particularly, if he lines up in the slot. Whew, you think about he and Hollywood. Now it's not just, you have one true speedster outside with Hollywood. You have Duvernay, too. Who's that safety going to pick? So the rookie's going to create some matchup problems for sure this year.
Hey, Ryan, did you mention speed? Because it was on display, not just with Duvernay, but with Marquise Hollywood Brown. And it's the perfect transition to our top play presented by Oakley. The burners were on, and that's a Pro Bowl top 5, top 10 corner in this league, and Marlon Humphrey, and Marquise dusted him.
Oh, yeah, Marlon's a track guy himself. He's really fast for a corner. And to see Marquise, I thought it was funny watching that play. I thought Marlon had him locked up on the line. He pressed him, and he was right up in his grill. And
yeah,
Marquise
but that second move.
He gave him a shake, and then once Marquise Brown has a little room, I mean, he just turns it on, and you see the difference even from last year when he was still dealing with that foot injury. To watch him get outside and just turn it on, just pedal to the metal. I mean, this dude can run away from people.
And as these guys, and we all like to do, I guess, we discuss things on social media. And Marquise, in that previous tweet, letting Marlon Humphrey know, always fun to compete against the best in the game. And then his quarterback, no words necessary. It's emoji time. I think that's fire and smoke. So I'm guessing that means we know that Marquise is fast. You heard that horn. That means they're going to go to a bit of an install here. So we're going to step away from the field. But we want to give you a great look back at yesterday through the eyes and mouth of Calais Campbell. He was wired for sound. Enjoy.
This is the dream, right? Hey, let's have some fun today, though, all right? Yeah, yo. Let's go. Everybody want to be great until it's time to put the work in. Everybody want to be great until it's time to put the work in.
Big man tackle me.
Boy, come on. What are you talking about? Finish with a win. Always finish with a win. Both of y'all. I don't care if it starts ugly. Just finish with a win, always. Be soft with your hands down there. Be soft with your hands. Physical hands. Nice and physical. Let's see what you got on this one. Do the cross tap one. Yeah, there you go. One more time. There you go. Physical hands. Violent. Bro, that boy's strong as hell. Boy, Big Baby's not human. Bro, Big Baby, I love you a machine, bro. You're not human. You know, on the screens.
You coming down? You asked me what I know a screen was?
No, I didn't ask you if I said, I'll just repeat myself. I know you know what a screen is. I've seen the film. The film don't lie, Big Baby. The eye in the sky don't lie. Don't nobody run to a screen like Big Baby run to a screen. Why are you trying to abuse me like this? I am not a running back. Warriors, come out and play. Like, it's a mentality, like every time I line up against somebody, like I just gotta remind myself that he cannot block me. Yep. It's time to hit. Boy, Lamar is special though. Oh. Boy, Lamar, boy, you fast as hell. I was getting out in that pop, and you just took off straight ahead. And normally I was out, I would get somebody. You had different gear. And I didn't count Dick before, you know, I mean, he had to make a cut, and I was going full speed. I didn't count Dick before now. I was a little younger, but consistency every single time. It's a standard to your game. Go to the quarterback, but run by him straight ahead, like forward or behind him, just, you know, far enough forward where you ain't gonna hit him. But just get used to sprint to the quarterback. Quarterback's gonna sit and wait for you. They would just let you sack him. They don't try to run away. Get to him. Oh yeah! Yeah! Ah! Yeah! Ah! Ah! Let him know! Let him know! Let him know! We got ourselves a football player!
Man, your tall ass always trying to stand next to somebody.
What do you mean, because you short, man?
Don't put your elbow on me.
I told him I might do some, because I like to just sprint to the numbers, from the sideline to the numbers. You know, just get that burst, you know. D-line on 3, 1, 2, 3.
D-line.
Come on, baby, run with me. I'm only going to the numbers, though. I don't do, I just run to sprint to the numbers, though. Sprint. Go. We look like 75%, ain't no full 100% sprint, but we do a 75 to the numbers. Ready, set, go.
Tenth year in the league for Calais Campbell, still bringing the juice. It's going to be a blast to watch him all season long in a Ravens uniform. As is the case, the Twitter poll has been up since this morning, and we want you to produce portions of this show. So today's poll question on Twitter: which Raven will have the most receptions this season? And the early returns have Mark Andrews, who led that category, last year, but nipping at his heels, Ryan Mink, Marquise Hollywood Brown. They're seeing these plays in practice. New look Marquise maybe edges out Andrews. We'll keep that poll updated throughout the show.
Yeah, I got to go with Mark Andrews still.
Oh, what's that, Mink?
I got to go with Mark Andrews still.
Okay,
Hollywood,
right.
I'm right there with him. Hollywood's not going to be far off.
All right, well, Willie Snead, Miles Boykin, we won't mention you. Coming up after the break, we will get back to the field. The individual drills period should be picking up, and we'll bounce around and talk some ball. Stay with us here on Training Camp Live, presented by Xfinity.
Feel like you've watched all the things? Now there's more to love with Xfinity X1, the ultimate entertainment experience. Like live sports, they're back with the best way to watch. And more streaming apps all in one place. More classics, more premieres, plus more to easily find using just your voice. Hello, more. Where have you been all my life?
Get this offer now with DVR service included for a year. Plus, get speed, coverage, and security with the XFi Gateway. Click, call, or visit a store today.
If the last few months have taught us anything, it's that we really, really miss football. It's coming, and Ravens scratch-offs from the Maryland Lottery are already here. Play now for a chance to win up to $100,000 or second chance cash and Ravens prizes like seats for 20 years. Please play safely and responsibly.
This right here is the papadilla, which, if I'm not mistaken, is Latin for better than a sandwich. Even has a better pickle. Papadilla for just $6. Better ingredients, better pizza, better than a sandwich. Papa John's.
We're changing the way we run, keeping you and our team members safe with contactless ordering, drive-thrus, and curbside pickup, so the only thing you have to touch is your phone. Download the Dunkin' app today and sign up for DD Perks to redeem great offers. Baltimore runs on Dunkin', and some of those offers make free donut Fridays. So as much as we're trying to keep it in check here, nothing better than a donut and a hot cup of coffee on a cool, rainy day here in Owings Mills as we shift our attention to the individual drills and what to watch for as the offensive line gets some early work on the sled here. Who do you want to keep an eye on here during these individual drills in day 3 here, Mink?
Well, specifically to the offense, since we're looking at them, I see Matt Skura hitting that sled, and I mean, obviously it's good to keep an eye on him as he's entering his 3rd practice coming off that major knee injury. So, you know, I'll be curious to hear from him how he's feeling. He was talking about, you know, these practices are really going to tell him a lot about his body. It's one thing to do it in rehab and whatnot, but when you're hitting a defensive lineman, that's a whole nother ball game. So it's good to see him out here for a 3rd straight day and not needing a day off. You know, I mean, sometimes you see these guys come back and they need a little time. So obviously the right guard battle, that's the biggest thing to watch here with the offense. And this offensive line is coming off a really good year.
Yeah, you look at this full screen here. This is from Next Gen Stats. It's the expected yards per carry, a category that really can paint the picture of who are the road graders, if you will, and it's the Ravens that top that list. The Eagles, the Colts are some of the 3 standouts. And while the loss of Yanda, Ryan, can't be overstated and will be a topic until we see how they fill that void over the course of the early portion of the season, you look at Orlando Brown Jr., he's one of the guys that not just vocally, but each year, and this year most notably, is looking to pick up his production and his performance. His tweet, we're on to 2020, trying to double back. That was in reference to that previous tweet. So as they continue to get work here on the individual drills, Ryan, on the defensive side, Earl Thomas is not somebody we've discussed much early in camp here, but one of the topics has been he seems leaner. And this is always something that I find funny early in training camp. It's like everybody wants to talk about their body, but it is something that's important to note. A player at his age and the performance that he can get, if he's in even better shape, that's a good sign.
Absolutely. It looks like he's a little bit lighter. And I mean, I think that Earl made no bones about it last year, that being in his first year, coming off a broken leg the year prior, it was a little tougher, a little slower start for him. And he was learning a very complex defense that he talked about was harder than what he ran in Seattle. So I think that it kind of led to him, you know, taking a little bit longer to get his bearings here in Baltimore. And now he has that. He's a little bit leaner, still bringing that physicality. I'll tell you about a hit he laid on Mark Andrews the other day. But, I mean, Earl Thomas, if you get better production, greater production from him, and he already had a very good year last year. I mean, quarterbacks completed, I think, 44% of their passes in his direction. But if you can get more playmaking from him, you see 2 interceptions. If he can get back into that 5 number that he's had 3 times in his career prior, now we're talking. And I think he has a real chance to do that because this defensive line up front is going to create more pressure. I think these quarterbacks are going to be throwing up some more prayers, and Earl Thomas is there to answer those prayers.
And you think about the fact that he has Chuck Clark on the back end with him to continue to help with all the communication as we shift our attention to the tight ends. Such a critical part of this offense and such a large portion of the production last year, Ryan. Mark Andrews, in my opinion, has put himself in that top tier, whether it's top 5, top 3, however you want to rank him, it really doesn't matter. Mark Andrews is an absolute difference maker. His running mate, Nick Boyle, showed some flashes to be more involved in the offense, got that touchdown he'd been waiting for, but no Hayden Hurst. And if you want to look at a position group, not necessarily that's thin, but you could have a question based off of the way it looked last year with that 3-headed monster. They don't have that third head, and there's no obvious candidate to replace it. So big picture view here of this tight end group. How do you see that angle shaking out?
Yeah, well, as you said, I think you have 2 really talented lead dogs, and that's a better tandem than a lot of teams have, that's for sure. And Nick Boyle, I think, has progressively over his career become a better receiver.
Agreed. Yep.
And we saw that in yesterday's practice. 2 spectacular diving catches by Nick Boyle. 1 kind of leaping catch with the rookie Patrick Queen draped all over him. So, you know, if Nick Boyle becomes an even better receiver, and I like the ball in his hands. Nick Boyle, you want to talk about a guy who will scare some safeties, some defenders coming up trying to tackle him. Nick Boyle, they don't want to tackle this guy. So I think if you get the ball in Nick Boyle's hands a little bit more, then that helps offset some of that lost production from Hayden Hurst. But you're right. They absolutely have to find a third tight end because this team uses tight ends more than any other team in the NFL. So who that's going to be, we'll see. You know, Jarrell Adams is a veteran free agent that they brought in. They have an undrafted rookie in Eli Wolf. They have Charles Scarf. So, you know, that's going to be a good competition for the third tight end. And outside of right guard, probably the most interesting competition on this offense.
Nick Boyle, 31 catches last year, 2 touchdowns. As you mentioned, really becoming an offensive threat here. Out of the University of Delaware, he's a hand. Lamar Jackson, early in camp, has looked every bit the part of an MVP from the 2019 season. He spoke at the podium yesterday, Ryan. Something he brought up that I thought was interesting and gives you a window into what these practices are, especially with no preseason games, the competition aspect. He mentioned day 1, the offense won. Yesterday, the defense won. It's kind of they look at the periods and all the math kind of works out. The players know it. We'll figure it out at some point. But it gives you a sense of Lamar Jackson's thinking every day of how this offense can win and get better. And the deep ball has been top of mind for everybody early in camp.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Lamar has looked like an MVP out here at practice. I think that's what you're looking for, right? I mean, not just in the way he's playing, but the way he's handling himself, the leadership. Here's a small little nugget that I picked up yesterday is Trace McSorley was throwing a ball to Jarrell Adams. And there was just some kind of miscommunication on the play. Adams didn't run the right route or something, right? And they're coming back and they're disappointed. And who's the first guy to step out? It's Lamar Jackson. And we're talking about the third team offense here. Lamar Jackson comes out to Jarrell Adams and he's just kind of puts his arm around his shoulders and he's talking in his ear and kind of explaining what went wrong here or what maybe Trace was thinking or whatnot. And I mean, that really shows you that Lamar Jackson's locked in. You know, I mean, it wasn't his rep or whatnot, but he's paying attention, he's watching, and he's mentoring guys and guiding them. And I think that speaks to just the kind of leader he is. And just beyond him, it's not just that he knows his position now. I think it's an understanding of everybody's position, right? I mean, and that just comes with maturity and playing time and all that.
And that, honestly, Ryan, you can be an MVP, you can put up all the numbers, but that's what separates the quarterbacks that become the anchor for a franchise. And Lamar's showing every aspect of that. And it speaks to something John Harbaugh brought up, too, yesterday. He likes to be in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
He wants to be a part of whatever's going on, whether it's the fun, the social, but also the serious in the football, whether it's the third team offense or not. I wanted to mention, too, Ryan, because it did come up yesterday post-practice, John Harbaugh was pretty straightforward. RG3, Robert Griffin III, having the best camp he's had since he's been in Baltimore. And as much as we want Lamar to be the face of everything, I think it's important to know that you have that kind of capability behind him. And this is a question coming in via Facebook. Again, get to the comments section, throw those questions in. Are the Ravens going to keep 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster, Ryan? It seems like a fait accompli. Anything that you think otherwise?
Well, first of all, Kenny Long, that's my guy Kenny with that question from right up the street. Love Kenny Long. Anyway, yes, I do. Me and Kenny go way back.
No one cares, Ryan.
Kenny cares. All right, Evan. Kenny cares. Yes, I do think that the Ravens will keep 3 quarterbacks, and I think COVID plays a role in this, to be honest, this year. I think that teams will be a little heavier at quarterback because if, God forbid, one of these guys catches it, you don't want to be caught having to sign somebody off the street. So, and the Ravens have a lot of talent at quarterback. I mean, obviously Lamar, Robert Griffin III, Harbaugh's saying he's having the best camp of his Ravens career so far. And then that competition for the 3rd quarterback spot is one to watch. Trace McSorley and the undrafted rookie Tyler Huntley. That's going to be a good competition. I mean, both guys mobile. Huntley very much in a RG3, Lamar Jackson kind of mold. I mean, mobile quarterback. So that's a good battle to watch. And I do think at the end of the day, the Ravens will keep 3.
Well, Lamar Jackson making a lot of noise because of his play, but also the new look here in 2020, rocking the visor. And we're happy to announce a partnership with Oakley, as well as between Lamar Jackson and Oakley. I mentioned it. He's got the visor, so we all get to participate in what is the new look here. As the sun's not out, but I'm going to rock these, Ryan, because I just feel like they look so good. And I'm glad I got here early because I got the first pick with the purple lenses.
Well, you made the wrong pick. I have purple lenses too. Can you not see these, Evan?
I can't. And they're clearly not as stylish. You look like Terminator's lost long brother.
What's wrong with Terminator? These glasses are. Evan, if there's one thing that I like more than watching training camp practice, it's getting free things. It's getting free stuff.
There's nothing better. And look, it adds to the mystique of Lamar, and the visor's pretty cool. And hey, if it makes you play better, look good, play good. So Lamar getting some early work in here during individual drills. We're going to take a short timeout, and we'll be right back here to continue to bounce around as the team gets their 3rd day of work in full pads here. It's Training Camp Live, presented by Xfinity.
Wawa hoagies are a winning pick for game day. Every hoagie's made with the ingredients you crave in varieties you love. From toasty cheesesteak to mouthwatering meatball, Italian, and more, there's a hoagie for every mood and every appetite. Stop in, order ahead with the Wawa mobile app, or get it delivered. When you're planning for the game, we have you covered with Wawa Catering. Make your game day a winner with Wawa hoagies, snacks, and drinks. Wawa is the official hoagie of the Baltimore Ravens. Gotta have a Wawa.
You can see it in the eyes of every Ravens fan. An unwavering commitment to the team they love. A pride so vibrant, it can be seen from miles away. A community that's fully committed to their team and shows up week after week to help chase a championship. To the Ravens flock, to Chet starters, to those who bleed purple, M&T Bank wants to say, we're your biggest fan.
No, this ain't no sandwich. Because on a sandwich, they ask you if you want cheese. But on a papadilla, cheese is what's holding the whole operation together. Get one now for just $6. Better ingredients, better pizza, better than a sandwich. Papa John's.
Welcome back. Get all the best Ravens video content on demand on your television, no matter where you live. For highlights, interviews, features, and live content like this show, download the Ravens app on your Apple TV or Roku today. The mist still coming down here a bit on the practice field, but not slowing down the big men up front. This is the defensive line. Ryan, we've spent a bunch of time talking about the new additions, Derek Wolfe, Calais Campbell, some of the young guys here making an impact in these padded practices, and these are some of these drills You can see it's almost like karate inside. You got to chop and make your way around an offensive lineman.
Did you ever do karate, Evan? What belt did you get up to?
You know, it's funny you asked that. I think I got like a month in when I was probably 8, and it just wasn't for me.
So
I don't even think I got.
Story.
Maybe I got the white belt, and after that, I said, you know what? I'm gonna stick to the team sports.
Yeah, well, this defensive line. I mean, I think there's a lot of potential here. Obviously, we know about the additions, and can I just say, Calais Campbell, watching that mic'd up video.
Awesome.
I mean, this guy's a fantastic addition in every different aspect. I mean, not just what he's going to do on the field, which we've talked about, but from a mentorship aspect. I mean, to have Justin Madubuike and Broderick Washington Jr., to have Calais Campbell there giving you advice. And it looks like he's pretty hands-on with Madubuike. I mean, that's invaluable. And he reminds me, Calais Campbell does, he's like the Mark Ingram of the defense now.
Great call. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's just this happy-go-lucky guy. He runs out to practice here in the rain. And, you know, when it's raining out here, you're just kind of like, all right.
And a day off on the horizon.
Exactly.
Most guys maybe want to just get through it, but Calais isn't let that happen.
Exactly. He runs out here, all right, let's go, let's go. I mean, just high energy 100% of the time, and you got to love that. I mean, it just rubs off on everybody, and it just makes everything more fun. So I think Calais is just a great addition to this defense. And then you look at those young defensive linemen. I think Justin Madubuike, he can make a difference this year, and Calais obviously is impressed. I mean, Madubuike is a guy with some quick feet. He can get after that passer a little bit, and I think that's something the Ravens have been missing a little bit.
We saw a shot of the offensive line, too, as the defensive line gets a break. And Bradley Bozeman, 77 in the dark-colored jersey, was in the middle of the screen. And we haven't touched on him. He had his breakout year last year, really showed some consistency, able to step into a starting position. I guess more would be asked to him as well, too, Ryan, as, again, it's going to be a division of labor to try and pick up the leadership, the production, the consistency that Marshall Yanda brought.
Absolutely. I mean, if everybody, and this is a young offensive line. I mean, you look at Ronnie Stanley, he's still in his first year of his contract. Then Bradley Bozeman entering his 3rd season. Matt Skura is still a young player. And then, you know, Orlando Brown, who played next to Yanda, he's heading into his 3rd year as a Pro Bowler. So this is a young offensive line. So I think let's not lose focus that all these other guys are also getting better, right? I mean, you lose a Hall of Famer. Of course, the natural thing is to think, well, that offensive line is going to take a step back. But if everybody gets better around that position and you plug in a good player at right guard, I think that this offensive line does have the potential to still be among, or if not the best in the league. So Bradley Bozeman, I mean, here's a guy who was a center at Alabama, converted over to left guard, and you were kind of wondering, that was the big competition last year. Who's going to be the left guard?
Yeah.
And he claimed it and held it for 16 games and was a very steady player for the Ravens. Now, he can still get a look at center. I probably expect him to start at left guard, but they're going to try him out at center. You know, if Skura's not ready or whatnot, he does have that flexibility. He can play both positions.
Well, you had McCary, too, who stepped in for Skura last year and did a really nice job. We saw some work there from Ben Powers as well, who's part of that competition to fill in at the guard position. And here we go, running through the gauntlet. Joe Cullen, defensive line coach, working those pads as well as the guys sprint their way through.
You want to make sure those pads are really thick around their arm. You know, when I saw Calais saying, give me that cross-arm chop, I'm like, oh, God, doesn't that hurt your wrist?
Yeah, I mean, the guys are basically just punching one another. And we talked about callousing, and I had to introduce the idea to you on Monday, our first day of the padded practice. And in all seriousness, as these guys work into day 3, the body's going to be telling them a lot of things.
Yeah.
The ramp-up period, I'm sure, has given them some comfort and some confidence that they're ready to embark on pads, but there's nothing like what they've experienced the last 2 days. They work today, they get that off day tomorrow, which is important, but then they get back at it. And one thing that I don't think we've probably said enough, but it came up in a press conference either Monday or Tuesday with John Harbaugh. I mean, there's an urgency because week 1, Ryan, is basically 23 days away, I think. I mean, it's going to be here before we know it, and this is only the 3rd day in pads. So you get the sense, and the weather provides that too. There's no idea of, hey, take it easy because it's raining. No, these guys wanted to be out here, get work in because the clock's ticking.
Every practice is critical for sure. I mean, we're not at white belt work anymore, all right? we're up to yellow belt at least. So, yeah, every practice means a lot because, John said, this week 1 is going to be unlike any other in NFL history. I mean, no preseason. The preseason is really most important for those young players, those rookies, those undrafted rookies trying to catch a coach's attention and make a roster. But, it's not. It doesn't mean nothing
important
for the
people
veterans.
play in those games and take hits, and it wakes up the body and the mind, and it gets you in that frame of mind.
For sure. So, yeah, these practices mean a lot. And I think one thing that is really encouraging, and Lamar talked about it yesterday, was how pleased he is so far with the passing game. Because that's something that takes a lot of work generally, and because there's a lot of timing involved, right? And usually you see early in camp the defense rules, right? And the offense is kind of slower to kind of get in rhythm and all those things. Well, seeing Lamar Jackson hitting his targets early and being pretty happy with the passing game, that's a really good sign because everything has to come together so quickly this year. So encouraging for sure.
Well, the continuity around this offense from the staff and Greg Roman makes that something that is realistic. Another question here via Facebook, or it's just a comment. We've got a producer on our hands. Can we see more J.K. Dobbins? So you get what you ask for here on Training Camp Live, presented by Xfinity. And there is J.K. Dobbins wearing the cropped jersey, showing off the guns. Man, this is an impressive physical running back group. And looks like Deborah wants a pair of those glasses. Deborah, would you like my glasses or Ryan's?
Whose glasses?
I would argue that mine are more style friendly. And
Style? You mean stylish?
Yeah, stylish.
Well, you just don't like to look like the Terminator like me. I look awesome.
Ryan's are good. They're all great. But look, I'm a competitor. So if I've got one pair on and Ryan's got another, I want the fans to want these. And J.K. Dobbins, early in camp, I mean, again, you can't say it enough, Ryan. When you put the pads on, that's when everyone gets a sense of who's for real. And J.K. Dobbins has looked, not that it's incredibly easy, seamless, all those things, but he is a guy that is going to be able to produce here pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. He's looked really good. I mean, just look at him. He looks like a little tank. So, I mean, explosive in every way, but he's got things to learn too. There was one play yesterday where he took a swing pass out of the backfield. He's wide open, and the athleticism of the play struck me because here's a guy in full stride, kind of leaps up to get in a prime position to catch that ball and hit the ground running. But at the same time, he also stepped out of bounds. Right, so he just kind of lost a little awareness of where he was on the field, and it would have been a catch for 1 yard because he just stepped out of bounds. And so, he's a rookie that's learning, but you see all the ability there. I mean, this is a very polished runner for his age, and physical, explosive, all the things you look for. I think that J.K. Dobbins is certainly going to be somebody the Ravens lean on because, let's be honest, they lean on all these running backs. I mean, they run the ball a lot. And we saw when Mark Ingram got banged up late last year and heading into the playoffs, the Ravens weren't exactly the same. They want to make sure that they don't have that problem again this year.
That's a great point. And just to give fans a sense of what J.K. Dobbins did and why he looks so primed and ready to produce right away. He was a 3-year starter at Ohio State. He got 725 attempts. I mean, he has a lot of experience at a high level. Look, it's not the NFL, but he feels very comfortable around this level of talent, and he fits in nicely with that group. And the wide receivers, we can't talk about them enough. And Miles Boykin, off the top of the show, you mentioned how he's made some plays. And look, it's been discussed on the outside, reports about Des Bryant coming in for a workout. So these guys all want to show, hey, we've got a lot of talent here as we speak. But here's another question via Facebook. Who do you think is going to be the starter alongside Hollywood and Snead? That's something you and I have gone back and forth on and will throughout camp here. It's Boykin. You've got Duvernay. Who else should fans be keeping an eye on, Ryan?
Well, I think it's Miles Boykin. I mean, he's your other starting outside wide receiver. So I would say it's really his job to lose at this point. Now, obviously, it depends on if these reports are true and if the Ravens do end up signing Des Bryant, that could impact that. But, the Ravens are going to give Miles Boykin a lot of chances. So I probably expect that he'll be the starting outside wide receiver. But to be honest, it doesn't matter that much because I think the Ravens are going to roll those wide receivers a lot last year. I mean, who was the starter last year? Seth Roberts? Miles Boykin. I mean, there's different guys each week. So I think really you have a 1, and then you have a 2A, a 2B, and a 2C over there, and it doesn't really matter. And that makes the Ravens offense even that much harder to plan for, because you have so many bodies going in there. They can all play different positions at wide receiver. They can move inside or whatnot, and they're so versatile. So I don't think it matters. It's more just what's the snap count look like.
Yeah, I would agree too, Ryan, because I almost look at it as like how many pass catchers capable and threats in the pass catching department you have on the field at one point. And as we touched on earlier, Mark Andrews and Nick Boyle fill out that category as well. And then you've got Willie Snead, who's as consistent a blocker, but also a receiver as well on the inside. Earl Thomas was a topic early in the show. Here's a look at some of the defensive backs getting their work in. And beyond the physical, not to say transformation, but approach here to 2020 being a bit leaner and looking more explosive, the comfort level, I think, can't be described enough, in the sense that it's another year off-season in the system while being done remotely. But I touched on it quickly. We haven't mentioned Chuck Clark's name, and he was so important to stepping in last year, taking over a lot of the communication, wearing the green dot, and that gives Earl Thomas that freedom too. So as all those guys are connected by a string, as you see Tavon Young alongside Chuck Clark in there, that I think that the threat and the continuity and the chemistry back there makes this defense, well, there's new up front. The old and the familiar in the back end has to be something fans are thrilled about.
Well, and that's really where you want to have that stability and that continuity is in your secondary, because there's so much communication that goes along there. If you have a breakdown in communication, well, that's a touchdown. So I think that having those two safeties who now have, basically a full season playing with each other together back there, that makes a big difference. And Chuck is just such an excellent communicator, getting everybody on the same page. He wears the mic'd up helmet, relays those defensive calls. He's just a no-nonsense, chill guy, doesn't get too flustered at anything. Chuck Clark's a really good player. Let's not just say it's not just all about the communication and the mental side with Chuck.
No,
he's
honestly,
a player.
Ryan, I think he's a guy that's poised to be one of the better safeties in the NFL, because he backs up the acumen and the football knowledge with the physical presence. And
how about Marcus Peters, Evan? Did you hear his answer yesterday to the interception question? He's asked, I asked him, what goes through your mind when you line up? Because Marlon Humphrey had relayed the story that he came to the sideline one time and he was asking Marcus, he's like, look, I got 3 plays here. I think I want to pick one of them to get a pick on. Which one do you think I should try to jump? And Marcus just looks at him and goes, every one. Every single one.
See ball, get ball, I think was the quote from Marcus Peters.
I asked Marcus about that. He's like, yeah, every time the quarterback throws the ball, it's a 50-50 ball. 50-50. Either I'm getting it or the wide receiver. So, yeah, I'm taking my chances every single time.
Oh, everyone's getting a little confident in the Facebook comments section after I said you could be the producer of the show. We love it. Keep them coming. Hey, you asked for it. You want to see MP Juice Man? That's his nickname. I just learned that, Ryan. And here is Marcus Peters. His story last year was one of the really fun and important ones to the story of the Ravens and that defense, because he comes in middle of the season via trade from L.A. He's always been a guy that's been able to find the football, but he found a home here. I mean, that I think is what's important as they head into 2020. His comfort in this building, with this team, in this locker room, in this system, because he knows what he's asked to do, and he just goes out there and does it. This back end, to me, Ryan, has the most defined roles of maybe any unit with this team, just because they all do something a little bit differently, but it all works in conjunction with one another.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Marcus was the perfect complementary piece, because you have Marlon and Jimmy, who are 2 great press corners, right? I mean, these guys are just physical guys at the line of scrimmage. And Marlon made a number of plays last year with fumble recoveries for touchdowns and things like that, and he got a couple picks. But, neither of those guys are really interception artists. But now you add a playmaker like Marcus Peters. So who are you going to throw the ball at? I mean, you don't want to throw it to Marcus because he might take it the other way on you. Russell Wilson learned that real quick last year. And you can't throw the ball at Marlon Humphrey because he's just draped all over his wide receiver. Same with Jimmy Smith. I mean, it's a tough assignment for opposing quarterbacks. I think those 3 work so well in tandem. The Ravens really, they're a defense that prides itself on making some big-time plays. Go back to Ed Reed. I mean, Juice Man brings some of that. So I think that he's been a great addition for Baltimore. And can we just stop and say Eric DeCosta is on fire? He's in Fuego. I mean, Mark Ingram, Marcus Peters. I mean, now Calais Campbell this offseason. I mean, this guy has made so many good moves since taking over. It's pretty unreal.
Ryan, let's move to the pass rush. And we've talked broad strokes on the defensive line, but specific to getting after the quarterback. Last season, they were 21st in the NFL, 37 sacks. So on the surface, you could say, ooh, that's something you improve on. And I'm sure they do. The numbers when it came to hurries, knockdowns, we saw Matthew Judon lead in a lot of categories in that department. When you look at it, is it as simple to say they need to get more sacks? That's top of line. And Pernell McPhee now healthy as part of that group? Or is there more to it?
To be honest, I think the linebackers that's the biggest question with the Ravens defense, are the linebackers. And it's an inside linebacker where you have those two rookies that are competing for starting jobs, and we'll see how quick they can get up to speed. But it's also an outside linebacker because the Ravens have Matthew Judon. They have that franchise tag pass rusher, and you know what you're going to get from Judon. I mean, I expect him to be a double-digit sacks guy this year. But then opposite of him, you have McPhee. You have Jalen Ferguson, who I'm not seeing in the huddle right now, so that would be his third missed practice so far. He hasn't practiced, which is not good for a second-year player. And as we talked about, these practices are all very
important.
And
Pernell McPhee, just to hop in quickly and let you keep going, but, I mean, he's a guy who's in his 30s, and he's when he's healthy, still can bring it. And we hope he's healthy all season long, but to not have depth there behind him would have to be something that you'd circle.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I've been impressed with Pernell in the first two practices, coming off that season-ending triceps injury. He's come back, and I saw him get around a block from Pat Ricard that was with a nice swim move and chase Lamar Jackson to the sideline. McPhee definitely has some juice, but you're absolutely right. I mean, at this stage of his career, with the wear and tear on his body, you don't want to put too much on Pernell McPhee's plate. You don't want him being a starting guy who plays 75% of the snaps. I mean, you'd probably like to see him around 50 or 40% of the snaps. And Jalen Ferguson, I think, the expectation is that he's going to be the starter with McPhee coming in behind him. But, I mean, these outside linebackers, I think they have a lot on their plate to kind of up the sack production and whatnot. The defensive line is going to help them do that. And I think the Ravens will get more sacks this year. But, that's probably, of any group on the defense, the biggest one.
Okay, we're into the linebackers here as we're getting close to wrapping up the individual period. Patrick Queen has been penciled in, top pick, to take over one of those inside linebacker positions. LJ Fort probably next to him right now. And a question via Facebook from Brandon, do you think Patrick Queen will have a big season? So a way to answer that question, Ryan, along with the idea of how that whole position group fills out, whether it's LJ Fort, Malik Harrison, or another name we should know about.
Yeah, to the question, I think that Patrick Queen will have a really good season. I mean, he's coming out of LSU, which has produced some really good linebackers. I mean, it's linebacker U. So he's learned from some really good players. I think it's Devin White was the player at Tampa Bay who had a really good first year. So he was really, the only reason he didn't play earlier at LSU is because he was behind Devin White. So I think Patrick Queen has all the ability, certainly. Here's a guy who Wink Martindale said he doesn't make many mistakes. He doesn't make the same mistake twice. Quick learner in the film room and whatnot. So, yeah, I think that Patrick Queen will have a really big, very good rookie season. I mean, yesterday we were talking about him being potentially the defensive rookie of the year. As far as the rest of the inside linebackers go, Malik Harrison, we'll see how fast he can get up to speed, the third-round pick out of Ohio State. And then you have LJ Fort, Notara Alaka, and Chris Board, who these are players that are more veteran players. Alaka's heading into his second year. I think Board's heading into his fourth. But they know what they're doing as well. And LJ Fort, I thought, was another under-the-radar, very good signing by Eric DeCosta last year. Came in along with Josh Bynes and played very well for the Ravens. Good in coverage. He can blitz. I mean, he can do a lot of different things and do them well. So the Ravens, I think, are in good hands if Malik Harrison isn't ready to go week one. I think the Ravens have some other good inside linebackers there.
It's a good problem to have, Ryan, when we're discussing these position groups, that there's not a simple answer, that it's this person is stepping into this job and that's that. Competition continues over the course of these padded practices. And as you heard the horn, that means it's time for the team periods. unfortunately, but for competitive reasons, we can't show you that. So that we'll see Lamar here as he jogs over for another workout here with the team periods. And that'll do it for us here on Training Camp Live, presented by Xfinity. But don't go anywhere in terms of the content coming out of all of our social platforms, because there's live press conferences after practice with John Harbaugh, Nick Boyle, Bradley Bozeman, and DJ Fluker. Also, top plays will be posted later today. No practice tomorrow, so no show, but we will be back here 9 a.m. Eastern Friday for another practice here. Training Camp Live, presented by Xfinity. Have a great day, everybody.